Welcome to the 1 Million Years of Joy podcast. I'm Dr. Andrea Benaker, your host, and my intention is to inspire you to find more joy in your life through the stories from our guests and the science on joy and purpose. Joe, I'm so happy to have the privilege to speak with you today.
And I accept the idea. I think it's terrific.
Joe, since we've met, I've always been so amazed by all the amazing things that you are doing today and that you have done throughout your career. I know you got your civil engineering degree in 1962. And since then, you've done so many incredible things. You have been a developer, a promoter, a builder, and you've worked on so many diverse projects, from ski resorts to industrial buildings. And I was wondering if you could share with our audience what have been some of the most fun and enjoyable and fulfilling projects that you have worked on throughout your career.
Actually, to consider the idea of continuing civil engineering, I graduated in 62, was because my first summer job was as a surveyor when we built the second bridge called the Mercier Bridge. So there are twin bridges there now, and I was instrument man for what you see today. That's about almost 60, 70 years ago. Okay, but it's still standing, not like some other bridges. And so after doing summer jobs with the same company, came graduation, and then I landed up becoming their expert in improving the blasting of the rock in the quarry called Jarry and Papineau was where everything was. And at that time, again, they were having trouble that the rocks were flying all over St. Leonard. And so with CIL and DuPont, we perfected it. Within a year, I had it down pat. After that was the most difficult challenge, but was the cement kiln, which was a 15-foot diameter cement plant, 450 feet long, that cracked. And we got involved in rebuilding that. It took, again, being a civil engineer, to figure out why a 450-foot long cylinder of steel, 2.5 inches thick, would crack. Within 2 weeks, we corrected the situation, and that was a challenge because Montreal needed cement. And then came Expo 67. So La Ronde, Ile Notre Dame, all the underground work was also done the same company. And that was for Expo, where my 3 children came, all of the 3 of them. And then from there on, I got into sales. And as soon as I got into sales, I started to realize that there are buildings that are challenging. And I got into leaving the company after 12 and a half years, joining up the next company, staying 6 years with them until the big challenge came, because the biggest thing I did for them was 200,000 square foot warehouses and 12-story high apartment buildings like Milton and St. Urban. So after that, it would be in 1980 that I was approached if I would consider tackling Ski Morn Heights. So I decided to leave that job and started January 81 to organize everybody, hire people. And in March, when the owners came to me and told me they were going down to the Bonaventure Hotel to buy ski equipment, I said, ski equipment? The site hasn't started. And so what happened was they told me there was $300,000 worth of ski equipment they're going to buy in March. And that's when we got serious. In 8 months, I was able to put together the ski hill with snowmaking, water, sewer, chairlifts, lighting, sewage treatment, water purification, pavilion in 8 months. Believe me, I believed in God because I kept saying all the time, God willing, this place will open. Because if I missed one feature of a ski resort, you could not open that November. And there they were with all that equipment for the people. And so it worked. That was an achievement. That took me 81. Then I realized that my children were in their teens already and time to start on my own. So with that in mind, bought into a construction company and started getting contracts or continuing contracts with them. And eventually, I think within 3 years, I bought them out, the three gentlemen, and went off on my own. I should go back a bit because in 1976, I was concerned how things were in Montreal. Everything about religion, about language was becoming a big subject. And so I took the time and called up 18 friends and formed the Chambly Lions Club. So I was their president, and for quite a few years we were down at La Fontaine Park fundraising, having a circus, raising money for the kids of Montreal. That was in 76. Back in 1967, when I was finished with Expo 67, I was voted in as president of a lodge of 186 members. And so that happened also during the time. Always to say that everything has been a very, very pleasant experience. To get where I got, you have to have a positive attitude, a mind of your own, and determination, and believing in tomorrow. And it's amazing, the one fault that always comes to mind is that I really have a habit of forgetting bad things. Now, I don't know if it's a gift or not, but I tell you, it works in my favor. Having a positive attitude seems to keep the negative down.
I love everything you have shared. It's so impressive. Now, literally everywhere I'm going to be going in Montreal, I'm going to be thinking of you and the impact you have had. You just mentioned that you forget the bad things. Have there been any challenges, any stories, particularly in this world of construction where things have not necessarily gone as planned? Is there a story you can share with us? And what did you learn in that process?
One of my projects was, as a student, was at George V Street, where we built cribs for the ships, and we would pour these huge concrete boxes in the dry dock and float it down the river and sink it into place and unite all the boxes together. And it's looking back, it's so important that you don't shortcut to make sure you're doing a good job that will last. And I can honestly say that anything I built since 1957 still standing.
That's a phenomenal accomplishment.
It's hard to explain. It's easy to shortcut. It's easy to say, oh well, but in my case, there's a little bit of guilt if something goes wrong, so do it right and avoid the problems. Of course, during the year, we saw all these things that are happening around the world, of even recently in Florida, a building collapsing. You know, I worry about quality control still today. They're relying too much on the computer and not on the old recipes. And so there are buildings going up today. I hope everybody's as conscious as I was. This is it.
It's so essential, everything you have shared. And as I'm thinking about all these massive milestones and accomplishments, I'm seeing the end result that is garnered with success. Tell me about the journey in between and what level of joy you had in the process along the way, along the struggle, even as you were describing earlier, the 8 months to really put everything that was needed to launch the ski resort. How were your journeys along the way, and how did you find joy?
How did I find joy? By enjoying what I'm doing. I did come across many professionals who were just fulfilling a day's obligation, and I felt closer to my job than a lot of people, that to the point where it's the job, the need, the getting up next morning, looking to the weekend to pass by so I can continue my work on Monday. I wasn't doing the 9-to-5 job. I was just enjoying what laid ahead for me. To the point, as I say, the weekends are just a break waiting for Monday so I can continue. and I still do it today. And I would say if there was 8 days in the week, I would take it also. It's just enjoying life because we do know what awaits us at the end of life. So why not enjoy it while you're healthy and capable?
And talking about this, I know you have made a decision to not retire.
To retire is like having a 7-day weekend. I just cannot accept yet, there's no reason yet, to slow down what I've been enjoying for 50 years. You go through the whole exercise of achieving, and you just one day walk in and say, I quit. I'm not a quitter. That maybe is the reason. The whole world is available for anybody and everybody to go out there and achieve. And so I set out as an engineer and still act as an engineer, even though I'm a developer and a promoter. That's it. It's hard to tell people that quitting has so many definitions to it, because as an engineer, I know there's certain professions where I don't blame the professionals for hanging up their hat because it's possibly boring, paperwork only, or certain tools of a profession that they think the only way to catch up with life is to stop and breathe. My breathing is working.
How beautiful. I see the passion, it's clear. Did you know when you were young that you actually wanted to do today, to become an engineer? Take us to your young days, when you actually made that decision. Was there something specific? Was there an experience that marked you and inspired you to actually become an engineer?
Well, I suppose school played a part. I always had to spend time learning to get out of high school even. And so I enjoyed having summer jobs. The transition from the education part showed me that I'm learning by going to school, that I'm hopefully smarter every year, that I'm maturing. And so I actually look forward to every summer to go get a job. And so I started at the age of 10. Didn't have to. Many kids had to. I didn't have to. So I always had a summer job. When I was 15, I was the carpenter's handyman at the development of homes in Pointe Claire. Massive, massive construction site. And there I enjoyed watching homes going up, excavating and all the features that make a village or a city. And so I continued with that until, so at 15, born in 1936, I was 1951. So by 57, there I was, like I said at the beginning, the Mercier Bridge. It goes so fast if you're looking forward to it too.
Absolutely. And I know beyond the commercial initiatives that you've been involved in, you've also been very active in the various philanthropic activities.
It's over 40 years now that I'm on the board of the Baron de Hirsch Cemetery on de la Savane. I would say one of the very difficult moments was when two gentlemen came to our office on de la Savane and asked the gentlemen if they would look into what's called the Back River Cemetery. That was just in the Gazette a month or two ago, almost front page of the Gazette. And they asked the board if they would come and help, that it was in dire need of maintenance. And the leaders were not exactly excited about taking on more work than the one on de la Savane. But I did drive out to see, and I saw so many things that were in need of immediate attention, but nobody was keen on, as I say, to take it on. But I found a just cause, explained to the board that we could do it, and we were very fortunate that the PQ government was in power at that time, and they gave us $1 million with condition that the community match with $1 million. And so we went ahead and we fixed up the Back River. So many features that I don't want to trouble you with it, but I gave 2,000 hours of my time supervising and making it what it is today, comparable to the cemetery on de la Savane. So that was a part-time job My wife didn't know that I was out that early in the morning checking the crew, but I was able to run my business and see to it that the Back River Cemetery is something that people are proud of, because there are still families joining the deceased with the empty space. So that's an achievement.
Are there other specific activities you've been involved in relating to helping the community that you may wish to share?
I would think so much to try to put a whole life together in minutes, but I would say thinking outside the box, even if it's not just getting a job done. It's a lot of common sense, a lot of thinking outside the box. There's another gift, is to hold back sometimes some information until you get a better picture of a situation, where I find too many people are hasty in making decisions and causing problems. So it's all about, if you feel that the community still appreciates, I'm not going to call it wisdom, I'll call it experience, that if the community needs an opinion, I'm always ready. Where there's a lot of other people who don't want to get involved and don't want to give their opinion. So it's an open mind. It's being grateful for being able to live way beyond any age I might have considered, because one thing I did is live my life one day at a time, without dreaming, without anticipating, just challenging every day as it comes. Anxious to get up in the morning, anxious to go to sleep and get up again. And of course, the social life is important too. I find that going out and meeting people for whatever reason is an inspiration that you have a purpose in life.
What would you say is your purpose in life?
Well, it's never changed. The way I started out is the same pattern as if it's etched in stone. Just to do the best you can, try to be helpful, be friendly. I'll never forget the one time that I felt being helpful could backfire, because there we were having dinner on St. Denis Street, and we were two couples coming out, and a gentleman approached me. And I found him intelligent. He said to me, "Can you match my quarter?" And I said to him, "If I match your quarter, what are you going to do with it?" He said, "I'm going to go into the candy shop right there in front." Good answer. So I said, "I'm going with you. If that's what you want, I'm buying you the candies." $7.20 later, I got up in the middle of the night and I said, I hope the guy didn't get sick with all those candies. Sometimes you sort of stretch your skills a little too much. I'll never forget that. But, that's the kind of thing. Like today at Tim Hortons, they're on the carry. The guy is standing there as you're driving to get a coffee, and he's got his cup out. So it'll cost you another quarter, if you know what I mean. Yes. And you feel sorry that we still have a multiplication factor that is getting out of hand around the world about people having needs, just the basic needs, and they can't have it. So still contributing to it, still enjoying it.
So beautiful. And outside of everything that you have shared, when you look at your life and your community involvement, what is the biggest source of joy in your personal life?
That's a tough question. Even that went beautifully. To be able to, as a teenager, to meet up with your mate as teenagers. And here we are, married almost 64 years, and yet we did almost 8 years before we got married. So that's about 72 years, and we're still in love, and we still enjoy and encourage each other. Where if I'm down and out because things are not moving fast enough, she's come up the school of think about it, take your time, it'll work out. So we compliment each other, we congratulate each other, and compromising is the biggest word I could think of when it comes to, of course, the life of a family. So take care of the kids, take care of the wife, in addition to helping others have a job, paying people.
I believe at one point in your journey with your wife, you suggested that you pursue an activity that was linked to art, right? Selling art, was that correct?
Well, actually, It started with my sister. She was running a little store out of her basement in Toronto. And it was quite a few years that she was at it, and I felt she could use a little bit more excitement. So when I was finished with Expo 67 and enjoying the art galleries downtown in the 60s, I approached the gentleman that I thought was the owner of the store, of the gallery, and I said, how would you like that we could start one ourselves? And he liked the idea, but then in time, he needed some financing and didn't get it. So I said to my wife, Grace, I said, and to my sister, I say, how would you like to have an art gallery while you're raising the children? You could receive people and have fun. And they stayed at it for 11 years. My sister in Toronto and my wife in Montreal, 11 years. And I was the frame maker. As a spare time, I would have a saw down in the garage and I would be cutting the corners, putting these frames together. And it was great. And we called it, because of Expo 67, while we were flying to Europe to go buy the art, I came up with the idea to call it Galerie des Nations, Gallery of Nations. And so that was adding a little bit of spice to my life. You're right. Yeah.
When you look back on your journey, what advice would you give your younger self?
The one word that sticks, it's the shortest word available, me. I find that all these latest generations have this me attitude. And as long as it's about me, you can't spread your wings and help others or take in others under your wings. So it's just an attitude that I don't know if it was Expo 67 that swelled everybody's heads, because by the time people were working at the Olympic 1976, things were out of hand. Greed had set in. Everybody wanted to be rich. And, and I think it's since the 80s, it's me. And so it's me in a family life, and it's me in the business world. That's where I see today's society. Everybody out for themselves instead of working together. And that's why maybe all these wars, nobody sits down to talk. It's me, be it Russia, be it Ukrainian, be it Israel, be it Gaza, everybody not working together.
And do you believe that is the solution to bring more harmony and joy into this world? Or would you have other insights to share?
The world's upside down. I think a lot did change because of the Twin Tower. When we saw how vulnerable we are, it's changed tremendously. So the last 20 years has shown tremendous change of attitude. A lot of people are just taking life one day at a time without any intention of seeing a brighter day. I think they see more negative than they see positive. It's hard to help.
So what advice would you give to the younger generation that are maybe starting their career, thinking about building a family? How could they live a more fulfilling life? What advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, when you see it from my side, they've got to step back and rethink, be it like they're looking for materialistic things, like looking for a car when they can't even afford it. All these funny things that they got to have it, they have to have it. Stop asking. Good will come. I really believe if you do your good deeds and you think of your neighbor, maybe sounds like the Bible, to actually take the time to do what you can for others, and good might come. No, I'm just thinking coming up on the 8th is the great eclipse that everybody is running to Niagara Falls. And I realize very often when I am speaking to people who are surprised at my achievements, my enjoyment of life, my excitement about every day, and even the weekends too, that I claim there are billions and billions of stars out there in the universe, and therefore there is a star for everybody. Some stars are bigger, some stars are shinier, but everything's out there. And I sometimes feel that my life has been etched already and that I'm living according to it.
As you're continuing to pursue various projects, and you mentioned the initiative in the Dominican Republic, are there other specific initiatives that you may wish to pursue to ensure you have no regrets?
Well, first of all, you have to want to challenge. You have to want to do better. And if I had to live life over again, I would go back to my first years when we're building bridges and highways and sewer collectors. I did a huge one in the Lar des Ormeaux in 1966 that is playing a very important part in that community today. And that was also a unique experience when you read about future projects coming up, people wanting to open up new areas, give up the vegetation and make new homes, that you think back to how you started out yourself, preparing these infrastructures for the future. Yeah.
Is that the legacy that you hope people will remember you by?
Yeah, it's hard to explain. Yeah. It's a gift. Sometimes people don't like their gift. I feel I've been gifted and never ever jealous or envious of the other ones who are higher up the ladder. That my life is mine, theirs is theirs. Some are not even happy with what they have from their parents. And in my case, my parents couldn't even offer me anything. I had to do it all by myself. Getting married, raising a family, it's out there. It's out there for everybody. We're all equal, we're born equal, and we're all going to land up at the same place.
And for those that are currently struggling to find joy, to find purpose in their life, what advice would you give them?
I would love to be able to talk to individuals because during my life, I've actually had the pleasure, and I really mean it, the pleasure, be it in a restaurant, be it a maitre d', be it a waiter, be it a waitress, with an attitude that we're all equal and that we sit down sometimes and they want to hear about my life. And does it rub off? That part I would love to know, for the amount of hundreds and hundreds of people that I've shared feelings with, that something good came of it.
Well, you're certainly an inspiration. I think from the time we've met a couple of years ago, and through everything that your daughter, Deborah, has shared with me, I've always been so inspired.
It's exciting.
It's exactly. It's just incredibly beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm of an attitude not to go around, and talk about it, but do what you can, but not to say, look what I did. Just let others judge you by the way they see life, through their mind, through their eyes, because I can't please everybody, but I definitely feel that, just like you said about yourself, that just being who I am is an inspiration, that there's room for everybody.
Yes, and everyone can shine in their own way, in their own light. Yes. Any final words of wisdom about the meaning of life and love and our journey here on Earth?
That's a tricky one. Sometimes I kick myself for being the kind of guy who always says yes, and my wife is always the one who says no. So it's been a bit of an education for me. Is, can I do my life over again without that attitude of we can do it? Yes, it's possible, and do a layback and let life pass you by. I'd have to live it all over again. But that's a fact of life, is it's always been on the positive side.
If you had a time capsule in which you would like to put a message for future generations to read, what would that message be?
You know what? I'm going to take that question into consideration, because I told the boys over at a site to open the time capsule and to bring the time capsule up to date. And I'm anxious to see what I left in the time capsule and what we're going to put to describe our world today, including the pandemic, how it's changed, how it's slowed down everybody, how it's discouraging a lot of people, how people are using the pandemic as a reason for not getting excited. I haven't slowed down yet.
So inspiring, Joe.
How do you do it? How do you tell a person to forgive and forget, to think positive, to accept life the way it is? I was surprised to learn the other day that there's 150,000 people who die around the world every day. That could discourage a lot of people. In my case, so that's the normal life. Go on. You're not unique.
You know, it's interesting. I was interviewing someone recently, and when you're looking at the evolution of medicine and of so many other fields, many experts say that we are increasing our human longevity as a result of a lot of the evolutions that are emerging right now and many people have been focusing on. And when I asked him, well, to what extent do you think we will expand our lives? Is it going to be 120 years, 150 years? And the insight he had was that he believes that humans down the road can actually live an infinite amount of years. If that was a reality for you, would you continue pursuing everything that you pursued, or would you actually expand into new fields to do something new?
No, actually, lately I've been watching animals and how their four legs are so well coordinated where we still have trouble with two legs. And I'm saying it's so surprising how I find that there is coming a change where, I hate to go on record, but the human is becoming animalistic again. That this evolution of living on and on, I don't think it's going to be good. I say, because very often there are people, when you speak about medicine, there are many people who say, oh, I don't mind. I'm going to have myself a hamburger and a hot dog and fries because I got a pill that's going to combat it. And so there's a big percentage who are abusing themselves because of medication. So all I can say is the human race is not what I knew when we're talking after being born. In my case, 1936, when the war was in the makings already, and how people survived, and whatever we saw them doing in World War II, they're still doing around the world. So talking about the future with the way the human race is functioning, it's going to take a lot of work.
And what is your view on AI and the impact it can have on us? Anything that relates to artificial intelligence. How do you think artificial intelligence will impact our lives?
I think we're losing control of our mind, that this artificial intelligence, we're stopping to think. I myself Google constantly to get my own answers for simple questions. Never took the time before to actually have the pleasure of relying on robots, on computers to give us the answers. We're not thinking like we were because everything's at our fingertip. And designing things, we're relying on the computer. And if you put bad stuff in, you're going to get bad stuff out. And so bridges, like the bridge in Baltimore, it wasn't supposed to crumble like that. And that's 1970s. So that kind of stuff is going to get worse.
Looking ahead, what are the hopeful things that you look forward to?
Positive for myself, for the people around me, but we can't control the world. This is the unfortunate part, especially with artificial intelligence, with this ease of learning what's going on all around the world within a minute, if not seconds, it's frightening. It's a negative, again, because they're always telling us mostly bad news.
So Joe, any final thoughts for our audience about joy? Anything that you may wish to share?
You know what? I enjoy sitting with you. I enjoy even seeing a freelance cameraman here that doing what you like best. And it takes, as I said before, the world is ours to pick what we want and to make sure that we do the best we can with our love of whatever profession it is. Not that you hear a guy who says, oh, I wanted to be an architect, but I chose engineering, or I want to be an engineer. Like you're wondering if he's happy with what he chose, or would he have been happier if he didn't change his mind? Be it a notary, an accountant, a doctor, everybody. I respect everybody. I'm grateful to have even the pleasure of drinking water, which a lot of the world has not got yet. No matter how many geniuses are out there, we still have many problems, like simple things like drinking water. Even a bus driver, he's important too. The garbage man, everybody. This is what they chose, be it a family tradition even, that they just, the dad was, I still remember meeting people one time where it was not inspiring at all, where the third generation said that our family has been living on welfare and it's good enough. That was a rude awakening to me about 30 years ago, only 30 years ago. Crazy.
Incredible. Joe, it's been such a pleasure to interview you today. Thank you so much for everything you have shared, and look forward to staying in touch and learning about all the wonderful things you'll be pursuing in the future.
Same here. As I say, it's even a sunny day today, right?
Yes.
It was foggy in the morning. Why? We don't know if it was cold air, warm air, but look at this, the sun is coming through. This is the pleasure of life.
Yes, it's a gift, and it was a gift to speak with you today. Thank you.
Thank you.